Now, we spent the entire last session basically examining the kick drum in dance music, and that's for the simple fact that it is the single most important instrument in your mix. If your kick's not powerful enough, if it doesn't hold together properly and rip through the mix, then your dance mix is just going to fall apart on you. Now, so what we're going to do in this session is basically we're going to look at synthesizing again, but we're going to look at synthesizing a few other instruments such as the hi-hats, claps, snares, etc. Now, I have to point out here that it's not important that you synthesize every single timbre for a drum kit. I know a lot of people want their own kits that are individual to them, but there's nothing wrong with mixing samples with your synthesized kicks. That will still create your own drum kit. Any professional producer can tell you that you will obtain the best results by keeping your options open, so don't feel the need to synthesize every instrument and mix them in with samples to create your loops, which is what we'll be doing in the sessions further on. Now, typically, as I've said, not many musicians will synthesize more than a kick, and truth be told, a lot of producers are either exercising a lack of skill or just sheer laziness by not even bothering to synthesize kicks. I've seen plenty of them just layering a load of samples together, and in my opinion, it's just lazy. But there is, at the same time, no need to synthesize the entire drum kit. Having said that, you will find that some genres such as minimal, tech house, techno, genres such as that, they will synthesize some bizarre timbres. So what I'm going to do in this session is I'm very quickly just going to give you a quick look at synthesizing some of the more common drum timbres here that you can then take further and move on to your own personal ideas. Now, I need to point out that this isn't going to be an exhaustive look at a synthesis. There's already a DVD dedicated to that, and this is just going to be a quick run through because we really do need to move on and get building some drum loops and showing you the techniques. But what we'll do is I think we'll knock out a kick drum first. We don't want a kick, do we? Want a kick? Clap. Kick. We'll do a clap. Now, with clap timbres, you're never going to accomplish real-world sounds, and they'll always sound, well, false. But generally, that's fine within dance music because the 909 and the 808 were both false. But if you want realistic claps, then I suggest sampling them. Now, as a side note here, if you have Sky, that's Sky in the UK. I don't know what you use over in the US or Europe, but there's Gospel Channel. Set up your Sky Plus to record that, and you can sample some fantastic claps. Not that I would ever suggest illegally using sample content, but then it'd be difficult to figure out who'd actually sue you. I don't think God could sue you, could he? Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to make a clap with Waldorf. Now, I've programmed quite a few claps on Ultrabeat, and they've came out quite well, actually, but I've never actually programmed a clap on the Attack. I don't know why, I've just never really bothered. So what I'm going to do, give it a go anyway, and hopefully it's going to work. Now, a clap consists of two things, basically. It's two sample and hold oscillators, generally pitched a couple of octaves apart, but the sound you receive is highly dependent on the synthesizer that you're going to use. As I said, I use Ultrabeat, so whether it's going to sound as good in this, I've got no idea. So what we'll do is we'll start by getting the meat of the timbre down, I think, the low-end energy of the clap. Now, for that we'll need to set oscillator 1 to a sample and hold. So we'll just set that there, and let's have a... Right, well, obviously it needs to be a lot higher than that. Let's try... It's not quite. Let's try... That's not bad. We'll just set up this. We'll send that to it. I think generally the pitch, because we don't want to go too mad with that. I think generally that's okay. We need to lengthen this, I think. That might be a little bit too long, that. I think we need to remove some of that low-end energy there. I'll use a bandpass. Just cut that down a bit. That's a bit better. It's a bit wild, this Waldorf. Perhaps I'll make that a little bit longer. Oh, that's not bad. He's sounding all right. He's missing a bit of the front end wallop though. It's kind of. We use crack. We use this crack barometer. Ooh. We send that fully to that, and then we calm this down a bit. Maybe and let's just do a couple of. That's kind of sounding now. I'll just turn that up a bit. Well, what we'll do, we'll drop a second oscillator in that. We'll use another sample and hold there. And again, we'll send that to the pitch envelope. I think we need to make that a lot higher though. Oh, that's it. Oh. I need to bring that in. Oh, there we go. We'll just drop those back a little. Take away some of that top end and we'll just introduce a bit more of a bottom end. Well, that's not bad. It's not a bad clap, that actually. It's it sounds like a clap if you kind of squint. Can introduce noise and that'll bring a higher top end to it. So I suppose we've got both options there, haven't we? We could have that one or we could have that one. Personal preference there. I think I prefer the one with noise. But that's not bad at all. That's it sounds like a clap. There isn't generally much else we can do with the clap timbre. We can adjust the shape of the envelopes, but that's going to tend to make it quite heavy. Ooh. Yeah, it's. I think I should prefer it without them. Well, that's not bad. It's not a bad clap. It's a fair example of a synthesized clap there, and that's basically how you make one. Not too complicated there. I think what we'll do now is we'll move on and we'll build a different sound on this key. I think what we'll do is clap, kick, clap, snares. We'll go for snares. For this, for snares, generally use two oscillators for a snare. A sine to create the body of the snare, and then noise to create the top end energy of it. The rest of that we can accomplish basically with a simple tweak of envelopes and things like that. So I think what we'll do, we'll create the top end first. So we need noise. Let's get some noise for. We'll create this top end. Well, that's what we can get away with that, really. We just need to take the attack back a little on there, I think. No, I don't think we want so much. We want to kind of slowly come in with the noise. Send that a bit more. We'll cut that right down. We're not going to need shape and release on that. It's alright. I think that's pretty much the only parameter we're going to need to change here. I think if we set that a bit longer, probably a bit too long that actually. Send that. We'll try that in reverse. We'll make negative pitch modulation. that's a bit better. I think negative pitch modulation is the key there. Oscillator 2, we want to use a sine wave, basically. We'll have to introduce that, won't we? Introduce that there, and I'll just say we'll throw that to it. Just don't go too much to the envelope there. We don't want this. Ooh, a bit too much there. What we need to do is perhaps tune that down. C4, we'll go for C3 here. We'll just bring that back. Try a bit more pitch modulation. He's still missing that front end, the front end wall. He kind of needs a hit on the front, so I'll go back to this crack here. I think that's a bit much. Let's draw that back a little. Change this down to 2 cycles, I think. Oh, not 8, 2. Oh. That's not bad. It's obviously you've got to accept that it is an analog snare, so it's not going to sound like a perfect snare, and it does have a slight sound of an 808 there. Perhaps if we drop back some of this, you see, it's not bad. There we go, claps and snares. I think so it's claps, snares. We'll do a hi-hat next, I think. We'll put a hi-hat on this one. Hi-hats are really simple to create. They're certainly simpler than claps and snares, and then they tend to sound a little more realistic too, or at least I hope they will. It'll probably come as no surprise to learn that hi-hats are created with noise. So I think what we'll do is we'll just introduce our noise waveform there, and oh well, there you go. There's a hi-hat. Obviously, a high frequency instrument, so we need to remove all the crap from the bottom end of that. So we'll send that on a high pass, and that's better. Alright, basically, what we can do there is we can create open and closed hi-hats, all dependent on these envelopes. For example, with a short decay on there like that, we've got a closed hi-hat, and if we increase it, oops, obviously not by that much, we could have an open hi-hat, and then we just play with the shape. Let's turn that decay down a little. And what we'll do is turn that down a little. And we'll roll around there with that. Ooh. Let's get that down. And there you go. I mean, basically that's a hi-hat, not incredibly complicated. We can have more bottom end energy by lowering our cut off there. So now we've got claps, snares, hi-hats. That's not bad. Now we could actually go further with hi-hats here. but it does involve using these here. Now these, they're very specific to the Waldorf, so basically what I want to do is I want to try and avoid that. If you own this synth, you're probably already fully aware of what they do anyway, and if you're not, why not? What's the point of owning a synth if you don't know what it does? But basically that's it. It's that's a hi-hat. See, incredibly easy to create. I mean, we can send that a little bit more over there, and not very complicated at all there. Right, that's what we've got now. We've done kicks, we've got claps, snares, hi-hats. We could do a conga, or we'll do a tom drum. Toms happen to be often more popular than conga. So I think what we'll do is, for the final one, I think we'll just have a go at programming a tom drum. Again, these aren't that hard either. I mean, you're going to be able to see what I'm doing anyway. The triangle, because we do want, I mean, we're pretty much almost there with that, so we can keep that on a triangle. And what we do need to do is, I think we need to send that down. It's a bit... That's better. We'll send that over to our pitch envelope. I send it too much, I don't think. As I've mentioned before, the more you send that, the more you're going to get your movement, and obviously negative works the opposite way. So I'd say we'll send that. It's probably a bit much there. We'll go back there. We'll keep the filter on a low pass, obviously. We want to keep the cut off full there. All we've got to do now is just play around with these envelopes basically to try and get our sound. So what we'll do is I think we'll increase this, because toms have that drop, don't they? They have that sound, so we just need that little bit longer. And I think basically we can just introduce a bit of an exponential envelope there. I don't go too mad. So about there, just to get the... So obviously the more we play with this shape, the more we're going to get a different kind of tom. And we don't want to go too wild with it. Well, I think that's alright. We've now got a clap, snare, hi-hat, tom. Now obviously I could go on and on and on with programming these drum timbres, and we could program an entire kit, but basically this DVD isn't dedicated to just programming drum timbres, and basically what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to move on, otherwise we just won't have the room to squeeze everything else on that we need to fit on. So I'm going to call it an end there. As I mentioned at the beginning of this session, the kick drums are the most fundamentally important part of your music, and you'll find that few producers will actually bother to program an entire drum kit, and you tend to sample them from a CD, a drum machine, or another source. Having said that, I've shown you the basics there, and you should feel free, of course, to program all your own timbres if that's what you want to do. I've shown you how to build a few of the main elements of a drum kit. We now covered the kick, we've covered the claps, the snares, the hi-hats, tom drums. It's up to you to take that further. If you want to program your own timbres to build a sample bank of drum hits, then feel free. I do discuss this in the manual on how to build drums, so you can always refer back to that. But for now, I think what we need to do is we need to move on to the meat of programming rhythms, and we need to have a look at building some drum loops, and more importantly, the techniques that we put into drum loops to make them sound professional. So what we'll do is we'll end that here, and we'll move on to the next session.